Welcome to Heartspeak Podcast, episode 45, Honoring the Life You Chose. Okay, I did want to call it Celebrating the Life You Chose, but thought I might be going just a little too far. It is about honoring and celebrating, but the words that I really want you to hear are you chose. Now again, some of you will be looking or hearing me and saying, what? I wouldn't have chosen this life if I was this great soul that you always tell me I am. Why would I have chosen this particular life? And that isn't always an easy question, because I hear people saying, well, it's my karma, or I'm in service to others, or this is my last life and I won't be coming back here, so I just thought I'd do these few things. But all of that, or all of those, are just man-made beliefs to make sense of a life that may have been full of struggle and suffering. So only your soul, God bless it, knows why you chose what you chose. And to believe that even there's a here and a there, or my past life or future life, is still very limited. So when people say to me, this is going to be my last life on earth, I have to laugh, because it's in the concept that there's a here now and then you're going to go somewhere else. But what if the here and now is everywhere, and that the construct is made up of beliefs and emotions and a physicality, that when we take all that away, we are just pure consciousness? And that as pure consciousness, we could call it spiritual consciousness, every time we think of something or think of someone, we're there. And so we are constantly being focused on whatever it is that we're thinking. And that's our challenge, because whatever we think is what we keep intensifying, what we keep creating. And you've heard me speak about this before. So if you don't like what you're creating, stop thinking it. And I appreciate that's not always the easiest thing to do. But if we come back to you choosing this life, we may make a little more sense of this. Now, I appreciate some of you may say, no way do I believe I would choose this life, choose these parents, choose where I was born, choose the trauma that I've experienced. And I am not in any way negating the suffering you may have had, the abuse or the trauma. But if we become a victim to what we created, then we definitely can't move from the place that we are. Only decisions can be made from a place when we're not the victim. So let's go back in time. And again, apologies, but I'm talking about past and future here. And as a being who was floating around in the ethers, not necessary in heaven and hell, they are man-made constructs, but you were sitting with your three wise men or three weird sisters. Weird means wise. So you had three wise beings around you who are always with you. And they're saying, okay, so are you ready for another life? And you go, not on earth. But they say, wow, lucky you, there's a space waiting for you on earth. And you say, why on earth would I go there? And you go there because earth has extremely unusual conditions of what we're understanding from other planets. It has within it this core of fire, molten fire. And such a middle to a planet means that it is a place of transformation, of creation. When you don't have this molten fire in the middle of a planet, then everything stays the same. And we have that same fire in us. We have enzymes which change things. We have nervous system synapses that change things. We have hormones which are also fiery. So everything in us has that potential to change. We have foods that are changed within our gut, making choices, what will nurture us, what will not. So in every moment, things are changing, not just the breath we breathe in and breathe out, which of course is different every moment, but we have choice. And that choice comes from those enzymes, those hormones, that nervous system. What do I want to do differently next time? So here we are back floating around in the ethers, and you're being asked, what do you want to do? Now, our place of choice is not always just, what is the wisest and most loving thing I can do? Which comes from my soul, my intuitive knowing. Many of our choices are made from, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I did last time, I'm going to do next time, our belief systems. Why do we want to create from beliefs? Because they give us structure, they give us security, they give us something that is known. And none of this unknown mystery stuff, please. So we place ourselves in, maybe we're going to create the same beliefs and create a life based on those same beliefs. And then we have emotional choices, choices that have a sort of addictive quality to them. So sort of a juicy addiction. And you say, why would anybody want to go back into a place of suffering or struggling, a place of the victim, the guilt tripper, the martyr? Because on a very instinctual level, we are somewhat addicted to those emotions that we feel in certain situations. And that the energy of joy or the energy of love are almost unknown to us. So we go back to what we know. And again, you might say, that's ridiculous. Nobody would do that. Well, you just have to look at people returning to the same type of relationship over and over again and wonder why they do it, because there's some sort of dependency on that chemical feast that we get from an emotion. It's not healthy, but it happens. It's a quick fix, like a drug. It gives us a high, then it gives us a low. So we go for that high again. So we keep going back. So we have those different levels that we can create for. And what I understand is that sometimes if you've had an experience in the past life and you die with very extreme emotions, extreme sadness or extreme despair or anger, you may not even pass into the life between life, the time of meeting your wise people. You may just say, I'm going back there again, to almost fix the problem or take revenge. And we know from my own psychic studies is that some people bounce literally back into a body as soon as they can to feel those same emotions, and unfortunately often live those emotions in the first part of their life. They're still angry. They're the angry young man who died in an accident. They're an angry young man who may have died as a pilot, and they literally hit the earth, they bounce up and bounce back into a body withholding that same anger. And it isn't that anything is lost, because through their life, even though they may certainly experience that anger in the early part of their life, their soul does have an impact and is able to say, okay, you have a choice. Are you just going to use that creative fire for anger and destruction? Or maybe there's another way you could use it. So nothing is lost. Whatever your past experiences have been, and I prefer to see them as different petals that you've lived of your flower rather than past and future. But whatever you've taken from a different life, we'll call it a different life, another life, that too can be used as a powerful tool or a powerful energy to transform. The biggest challenge is when we don't transform. We just use that same belief throughout our life, or that same emotion. We start angry, we end angry, and here we go again. We leave this world just as we came in. That truly is sad for the soul, because there's no change. Literally what the soul is looking for is some element of change that may well be expressed. And so here we are floating around in the ethers with our wise beings, and they say, okay, who's going to be your parents? And you say, those two will be my parents. And those parents say, oh, not again, we were your parents last time. And you say, but you did it so well. Well done. So we are often really down here with the same damn crew that we've been with before. And we often take similar positions. No, you were the mother to the child, etc. But it's also the reason why people say to me, wow, I mean, I feel so close to this person. Do you think we've had past lives together? One, you've had lots of past lives together. And yes, you may have karma that you two of you are sorting out. But it needs to be made sure that there's no sacrifice in that karma. You're not giving something up in order for this person to experience something, because you probably did that in another life. You have to move beyond how am I going to fix someone else? The karma is how am I going to behave so this relationship is different, if that's what you're talking about. So here we are, floating around, made a choice of our parents, our siblings, our close friends maybe, and the where and when we're going to be born, which as an astrologer is very important. The time, the place, the date, when are we going to be born is what we bring into this world. And then someone says, well, yes, but I was induced, or they decided to give me a cesarean section, etc., etc. I wasn't born on the day I want. Oh, yes, you were. You're born exactly when you were meant to be born, by exactly the method you were going to be born. It's a great book by Sandra Ray that talks about the birth relationships, or how birth causes our relationships or interacts with them. And so the typical one is, of course, the breach, with the child coming out feet first saying, no, I don't want to be here. Or maybe you've got the cord around your neck. And what it was, that this life is dangerous. If I'm born, naturally, I'm going to die. I'm going to strangle myself. And maybe you were strangled in another life. So it's between, can I go out there, and what's happening to my throat chakra in this life if the cord was around your neck when you were born? And if you were induced, then was that because your life was threatened? Did they induce you because they had a fear for you? And does that mean that every time you get frightened, you're looking for somebody else to intervene? So someone who is induced, literally someone else is making a decision for you. And it can often be that you get to the precipice of some disaster before someone else needs to reach in and help you. So is crisis the main theme of your life if you were induced because your life was threatened as a baby, in terms of you may not have survived? They had to get you out of the womb. Cesarean sections, many different reasons for cesarean sections, one of which may be that you were basically almost going to die if they didn't take you out. Maybe you'll find yourself in similar situations in your life. But the cesarean sections that are done to convenience either the mother or the doctor or whoever, again, it's by somebody else's convenience. So here you are being lifted out without having to go through the vagina, without having to go through all the pulling and pushing of the vagina wall. It often means that you don't have that strength or the inner power to push past adversity. Everything you meet is traumatic, everything you meet is difficult, and then you say, can someone else save me? And then Sandra Ray tells a lovely story about someone who had a transverse lie when they were in their mother's womb, which means that they were trying to get their back coming out through the vagina, which was never going to work. So as a doctor, you either have to push them back up so that either their legs or their head will come through, not just their back. She tells a story of getting in the back of a car, or being with someone who was driving a car who had been stuck during the moment of their birth. And when she found out how they were born and that they felt they got stuck, she realized she'd never got into this car because this person always got lost. They could never find their way. So the method of our birth already tells us about the life we've chosen. That's what I'm putting over as an idea. Yes, your birth may have been traumatic, but it was already showing you your matrix, what you were going to go on in your life to experience. So I hope that helps you to see that. And then we're born into our parents, and here are lovely parents, or not. And somewhere along the line, someone told you that they should be nurturing and supportive and encouraging, and you didn't find that to be true. And you battle against that throughout your life, maybe for many, many decades. going to different therapists to say, why don't my parents give me what I want? I appreciate that is very painful, not to be cared for, not to be encouraged, not to receive what you want. But it's almost like the mythology of, why did you ever think you would get what you want from them? Who told you that? And many a time we come up with that belief that says, oh, they did the best they could. Well, possibly they did, but that has nothing to do with your soul growth. You see, again, we tend to project our woundedness, our unhappiness on other people and ask them to change. Or we see our unhappiness as being not okay, i.e., this isn't what I expected from this life. So our expectations can be, well, I want something different. And the truth is, hang on, you chose this life. Now, this isn't then you go into a blame game and say, oh, terrible me, I chose this life. This is more about, okay, as this wise being, why would I have chosen that life? Do you get me? So if you had an absent parent, maybe your soul said, I don't want to be trapped by taking care of people. So let's let my parents be absent so I can do what I want to do without being having their dogma applied to me. Or maybe you didn't get any encouragement when you were a child, but you learned how to encourage yourself. And then you went on to encourage children as a teacher. Or maybe you were around someone who was aggressive, even destructive. And maybe you looked at them and said, I never will be like them. And maybe that was what your soul needed was, hey, I may have power in me, but I never want to be destructive. Or maybe you have power inside you and you met someone who was aggressive and destructive, and you said one day, enough, never again. And it was when you rose into your power that you actually realized why you needed that person in your life was to help you. Maybe you had people around you who didn't understand you or weren't as clever as you. And you could be really angry. They never understood me. I don't fit in. But maybe what you learned was how to fit in by being more tolerant and more patient, by giving it different explanations to people than you would have done before. Maybe you were abused, and maybe the message of that might have been that you went on to help other people who've been abused. Or maybe you learned that you needed to love your body and never let anybody hurt you again. And maybe people who you loved died in your childhood, and you could have just gone into the grief of that for the rest of your life, but instead you looked and said, how did I change because these people died in my life? And maybe even, how did I learn to love fully when everybody was around me rather than grieving them when they died? I.e., if you've lost people you love, you could just say, I'm never going to love again. But maybe what you do is you say, everybody I meet, I'm going to assume they're only with me in the now. Tomorrow they may be gone. So I'm going to love even more deeply. So I wanted to just put these ideas across in this particular podcast. I wanted to give you the opportunity to look back at events in your life and recognize, knowing that this is a holographic world that you created, how has your soul grown and expanded and learned and experienced because of the choices you made? And on top of that, to take the gems of wisdom that you developed. Wow, I learned that I could encourage myself. Wow, I could learn that nobody's ever going to hurt me again. Wow, I came into my own power. So you take into your heart the subpersonality of encouragement, the subpersonality of loving, the subpersonality of strength. And every time you feed your heart with these qualities, your soul becomes stronger. Your soul's light becomes stronger. And it means that you make decisions not based, as I'd originally talked about, on your beliefs and emotions, but from your soul. So the more you feed your soul with the gems of wisdom, not the pain and the wound, but the gems of wisdom, the more powerful your soul becomes in order for us to make new decisions, better decisions perhaps, than staying in a victim status. I hope this has helped you to get inspired by what you created and that you can celebrate the life you chose. If you want, you can just go back to honoring it. But please remember to bring everything to your heart. When you bring it to your heart, listen to your heart, create from your heart, and know you are much loved and guided always by these three beautiful wise beings who never leave you. Until next time, many blessings.
Thanks for listening to the Heart Speak podcast with Dr. Christine Page. Remember to check out other episodes in the podcast archive section on www.christinepage.com. And do share with friends, family, and colleagues. Join us next time for another edition of Heart Speak.